You're not alone. If you need someone to talk to today, please contact Crisis Services Canada by either calling them at 1-833-456-4566 all hours of the day, or you can text them at 45645 at 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern Time. Remember, you're not alone, and Crisis Services Canada is here to help. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Prospect Show on ASTV Productions. I am your host, Graeme Forsyth, hoping everyone is having a wonderful Monday so far. Of course, it's Monday night now. I know that there's some good sports action going on. If you guys are NFL fans, a huge game to end off Super Wild Card weekend in the NFL between the Los Angeles Rams and Arizona Cardinals. I do believe that the Rams just took a 13-0 lead, but aside from that, besides sports that you guys may be watching up until this point, since you guys are tuning in now, I want to thank you for tuning into the Prospect Show tonight. Of course, the Prospect Show is brought to you by TOVI Hockey, Caisse Financial Group, and Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy. And if you guys do notice the background is a bit different, going back to the original setup, the green screen, having some issues with that right now. So in the next few episodes, or for the foreseeable future, before we get it sorted out with the green screen, I'm going to be using the old background. Kind of nice to go back to the old background, not going to lie. I've missed it. It's nice to have it back. But some news. One of the guests out of the two that I have on tonight's show will not be joining the show. Chase Wutzke. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce his name. Number 30 goaltender for the Saskatoon Contacts won't be joining the show this week, unfortunately, due to internet connection difficulties. But we're going to have that sorted out for you guys next week and have Chase on next week's edition of the Prospect Show. That is a guarantee. So my apologies to the viewers that were anticipating Chase being on tonight's edition of the Prospect Show. I was really looking forward to interviewing this kid because he's having a phenomenal season in the Saskatchewan Male AAA Hockey League right now. He got drafted 40th overall to the Red Deer Rebels in the 2021 WHL draft, and he's actually had a chance to play already in games and became the youngest goaltender in the internet era. That's what they're calling it. I guess since the internet has become a thing, it's become prevalent, but he's the youngest goaltender in the internet era, they say, to win a WHL hockey game, which is fantastic. And he's also played for Team Saskatchewan at the WHL Cup in 2021, this past year. Last year, I guess, since it's 2022. But it's going to be exciting to have Chase on next week's edition of the show to talk to him about all the achievements he's had so far his season with the Saskatoon Contacts, as well as his experience playing in the WHL and become the youngest goaltender ever to win a game, being the youngest goaltender to do that. But that will be next week. We do got one guest that will be joining the show up right now, and that is number 13 for the Okanagan Hockey Academy Penticton U15 Prep squad, forward Charlie Grant. Charlie joins the show on this week's edition of the MCN Sports Advising segment to talk about his time being advised by MCN. That's in the second part of the interview with Charlie. I'm going to talk to him about that, but we're going to start off the show with Charlie by talking to him about, I'm going to start off by talking to him about just his season with OHA U15 Prep, the stats that he's been putting up, as well as why he chose OHA and plenty more. So stick around after this intro for this first guest and the only guest in tonight's edition of the Prospect Show. Number 13, Charlie Grant of the Okanagan Hockey Academy Penticton U15 Prep team in the CSSHL on this week's edition of the MCN Sports Advising segment here on the Prospect Show on ASTV Productions.
Wow!
Open that second charm here on the Prospect Show tonight on this week's edition of the MCN Sports Advising segment with Charlie Grant, number 13 for Okanagan Hockey Academy Penticton U15 Prep. He's a forward for that academy from West Kelowna, British Columbia, 2007 born player. Charlie, how are you? Great to have you on the show once again here on this Monday night.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you.
Of course. And, Charlie, just talking about, the season you've been having this year, a very productive season so far. 12 goals, 10 assists for 22 points and 20 games played as listed on the CSSHL website. Just talk about, how pleased you are with the type of season you're having so far to put up this over a point per game production so far.
Yeah, honestly, couldn't ask for a lot better. My teammates are feeding me the puck and seems to be working out well. So
yeah. And when we connected for the first time last week, you spoke about your teammates and how they've been such a huge part of the success that you've been having. Talk about how the chemistry has been building throughout the season so far to this point now where you guys are at.
Yeah, just a great group of guys. We bond well together. Our team this year is almost the same team as we had last year. So we've had a lot of time to work with each other. And just the connection we have it's great.
Yeah, and last season you only had a chance to play 9 games, of course, in that COVID-shortened season due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But you were on the U15 varsity team as opposed to the U15 prep team that you're playing on this year. Talk about those 9 games. I mean, getting your feet wet in the CSSHL, obviously, it being in a different division, varsity being different than prep. But talk about it last season, putting up 11 points in 9 games, the production that you had last year with, pretty much the same team as last year as this year.
Yeah. Well, last year was it was our first year of Bantam, so we were just kind of getting used to the feel of hitting and giving and receiving hits. But we worked well together and put up, I think it was 8 wins in those 9 games. So we got used to it quickly. And yeah, luckily we could find a way to work together and string together some wins.
Yeah, having, like you said, off the top of your head, you're thinking like 8 wins last season. I mean, in 9 games, pretty darn good, pretty successful season throughout those 9 games, even though the season ended up being canceled due to COVID. But, talking about going back to why you chose Okanagan Hockey Academy as that next place you want to continue your hockey development. Obviously, you'll be eligible for this year's upcoming WHL draft. Obviously, OHA has a history of, developing good hockey talent. But talk about OHA, why you chose that academy, this academy you're playing in now, is that next place to develop your skills.
Yeah, the facilities and the chance to be on the ice every day is a chance you don't always get. So it was a great thing for OHA to pick me up, and just the history there is unbelievable. I knew the development and the coaching there could give me what I needed to improve as a player, and I've just been rolling with that ever since.
dive more into, the facilities, being on ice every single day, the coaching staff, like the history, like you spoke about, obviously playing with the group of boys you're playing with this year. I mean, the chemistry you guys have built up, getting to experience those things like the facility, the coaching staff, and just being in an academy like OHA firsthand once you step foot for the first time in that academy and have had a chance to experience it at this point. Talk about how the experience has been experiencing all those things at this point.
Oh, the experience is amazing. Great trainers in the gym giving you what you need to improve on the ice, and then great coaches on the ice to help you improve as a player. Yeah, just overall amazing facilities and great coaching there.
Obviously, looking at the past 2 seasons that you've had with OHA, looking at last year, you put up 7 goals, 4 assists in those 9 games for 11 points. So far this year, what's listed on the CSSHL website, you have 12 goals, 10 assists for 22 points in 20 games. More of a goal scorer than a playmaker, but you do dish that puck out, as the stats do indicate. Talk about your game as a player, what type of player that Charlie Grant is out there on the ice.
Yeah, I like to work on my shot a lot. If I get a good opportunity in a lane to the net, I'll take the shot. But if I see somebody wide open, I'll make the pass for sure. I like to keep my head up and try and make the right play every chance I get.
Yeah, and I had a chance to look at some game footage that your dad Shane sent me. Obviously the shot, the most prominent thing out there. You can release that puck quickly if you want to. You're accurate as a shooter, and you know how to wait goalies out and be patient as well. Talk about how all those things have been building up to the point you're at now with the type of shot that you got out there.
Yeah, I've been working on it for the past few years just to try and perfect it as well as I can. Um, yeah, it's just a lot of work on the shot will improve it, and definitely helps with all of the points that I've been getting.
Touch on the things that you felt this year so far in your game that might have been a bit weaker coming into the season that have really been improving in, parts of your game that maybe you haven't had a chance to, flourish in before, this season, playing with OHA U15 Prep.
Yeah, just skating skills are. I worked on that a lot over the summer, so I got the chance to show that I'm a better skater this year than last. Uh, Last year, the skating was a little choppy, so I've been trying to work on it, and yeah, just trying to improve as much as I can to become a well-rounded player.
You talked about the coaching staff earlier, as that being one of the things why you chose OHA, along with the other things that you talk about. Talk about the situations that this coaching staff this year has put you out in for you to, succeed to the best of your abilities out there.
Yeah, well, the coaches are obviously great. They give you all the tools you need to get noticed as a player, and that's what I've been trying to do this season. They've been giving me opportunities on the power play and the penalty kill, and that's what I was hoping for coming into the season, and yeah, just helping me out quite a bit.
Excuse me. You guys are currently fifth place in the U15 Prep division with an 11-5-3 record, 91 goals for, 73 goals against. Some pretty solid numbers there. I mean, you guys are 7th out of 17 teams in terms of where you guys rank in goals for as a team, and tied 8th least given up in terms of goals against so far. So, the team having a pretty solid season so far. Talk about why you felt that this team has been able to have the type of success that it's been able to have so far with that 11-5-3 record, sitting 5th place in the CSSHL U15 Prep division.
Yeah, going back to, I think, just bonding and getting along as a team. We know each other so well. It's the energy is great. So if somebody makes a good hit, blocks a shot, everybody's getting excited on the bench, and that really helps energize the team and work towards a win.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely love to see that, just having high energy level at all times, right? When you guys are doing those little things right. Talking about for yourself, going back to you personally, getting adjusted to the competition that is out there. Obviously, this is a highly touted league with a lot of skill throughout all divisions that the CSSHL has to offer. Talk about how you felt that you've adjusted to the competition that you guys have faced as a team out there in the U15 Prep division so far this season.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of great teams in this league. One of the main reasons I came to the academy was the level of competition. It's definitely unmatched. It's you always have to work your hardest and be on your game if you want to win games. And I think that's something our team's managed to do pretty well this season. But yeah, definitely competition is crazy. You always have to be aware of other teams.
Yeah, for sure. And, for you guys, obviously being in fifth place right now with a record above 500, 11 wins so far on the year, and the games that you guys have played, obviously teams want to improve the things in their game as a team as the season goes along. For this team, from your opinion, from your viewpoint, how do you feel like this team can improve and maybe hit another level out there and continue improving as the season goes along?
Yeah, I think we definitely have another level that we need to turn on as we're getting into the close to the playoffs here. If we want to become league champions, but yeah, I think we just need to give everything we have, maybe be a bit more physical. But if we want to win our league, we got to turn on our next level that I know we have.
Yeah, for sure. And great to know that, that this team could very well have that next level to give, just got to see it happen, wait and see what happens with the team moving forward this year. But obviously with you being a 2007 born player, your draft year for the WHL is coming up this year. Not sure how much that is on your mind, but talking about for yourself in this season, for you personally, how you want to continue developing the skills as the season goes along, heading into playoffs as well when the season ends.
Yeah, for sure. The draft's definitely on my mind, but I'm trying not to worry about it and just help out our team as much as I can. But yeah, I need to keep improving. Hopefully our team will get noticed and then individuals will start to get noticed after that. But yeah, I'm just trying to keep it off my mind as much as I can.
Yeah, for sure. Well, who does a great job at letting players just go out and play their game is the company advising you, MCN Sports Advising, and that's what we're going to talk about next, Charlie. After the commercial break, I'm going to be joined by Charlie, of course, to talk about his time with MCN Sports Advising, what they've done for him so far, and all the things that MCN has to offer. You're watching the Prospect Show. This edition of the MCN Sports Advising segment this week on the show with number 13 of Okanagan Hockey Academy U15 Prep forward, Charlie Grant. Stick with me and Charlie after this commercial break. Welcome back to the Prospect Show on ASTV Productions. On this week's edition of the MCN Sports Advising segment, Charlie Grant, number 13 of Okanagan Hockey Academy Penticton U15 Prep, joins the show. He's a forward for OHA Penticton, and he's having a pretty solid season so far. Over a point per game player, 22 points, 12 goals, 8 assists. 12 goals, 10 assists in 20 games played, having a solid season so far, as I mentioned. But, Charlie, you're advised by MCN Sports Advising. Tell me, and the viewers, how you found MCN and got started.
Yeah, for sure. I was looking for somebody to help me improve my game and help me out as a player to try and get noticed. And they were there for me when I needed to get noticed. And they've just, they've helped me through it. They've been so nice to me. And yeah, they're definitely great to work with.
Yeah, for sure. And owner of MCN Sports Advising, Matt Gorman, I mention his name every single time since he is the owner in this segment of MCN Sports Advising. But with all that he's gone through, all the various different places that he's played at, the high levels that he's played at, talk about, Matt Gorman, the conversations you've had with him so far, and the knowledge that he's been giving you.
Oh, yeah, such a nice guy. He's talked to me about all the levels that I could hopefully play at, and he's given me knowledge on what's good about them, what's not so great about them. But I definitely have a better idea now, thanks to him, of kind of what I want to do as a player. And yeah, he's just helped me out a lot.
Yeah, that's great. And, Matt, like you said, such a nice guy. I've had him on the Prospect Show, this show, a couple times now, including once on this segment, MCN Sports Advising. But is Matt your advisor, or are you advised by someone else?
Yeah, Matt is my advisor.
Right on. Obviously, him being your advisor, obviously offering a lot of mentorship. We've spoken about it already, kind of touched on it a bit, but talk about how huge the mentorship side of things is with Matt and what MCN offers.
Yeah, just MCN offers a ton to me. They've always helped me. They've helped me through everything, helped me improve as a player. They're helping me learn what I need to improve on and try and get noticed at higher levels. For sure.
Speaking of learning, obviously with MCN, they don't just offer training and advising for hockey players and other athletes that they advise, but they also offer education, knowledge there. Talk about the education side of things, how huge that's been from your experience so far with MCN Sports Advising.
Oh yeah, it's been great. They've taught me so much about like the hockey world and what I can do with my career if I choose to keep going with what I sorry, I'm
No worries, no worries. They just give you that opportunity on the education side of things to flourish in that area, and education being such an important thing because say hockey doesn't work out, you have a good education, you'll still have a lot of options open down the road for other things that you want to do. But talking about the training side of things, obviously you talk about how they've improved you as a player so far. Talk about the type of training that you've received from MCN Sports Advising so far.
Oh yeah, I've had a ton of phone calls with them. They've told me what I need to do to improve my game. They've told me what I'm good at, and they've just taught me a ton about hockey and helped me learn about different levels of the game and where I should try and take my career.
Yeah, for sure. And you talked about we talked a bit about the WHL draft, not much in detail earlier on in the show, but you talk about how like it's on your mind, but you're just trying to focus on playing your game out there. MCN Sports Advising does a great job of taking care of the behind the scenes stuff, right? Like talking to teams, reaching out to teams, getting players like you and the others that they advise notice. Talk about the messages that Matt Gorman has told you about the draft process coming up for you as the draft, as much as it's far away, it's going to be coming up pretty quickly here.
Yeah, he's definitely trying his best to get my name out in front of teams, and I thank him for working so hard to try and get my name out. But yeah, trying to keep my mind off the draft. A little nervous for it, hoping to get drafted, but yeah, they're helping me out a ton.
Yeah, for sure. And it's natural to be nervous, right? Something that you want to, achieve getting drafted into the WHL. But just know that even if you don't get drafted into the WHL, if that ends up happening that you don't get drafted there are many different paths for you to take to, continue to further your development in hockey and reach higher levels. So, talking about one last thing here, Charlie. Just a message out there for players that are looking for a sports advising company to advise them, their families, looking for, those advising companies to put their kids and trust their kids with these advising companies. Why is MCN Sports Advising that place for, a player to be advised, in your opinion, your message to the players out there?
Oh, for sure. MCN just works so hard to get my name out and try and do everything they can to help me improve as a player, and I'm really thankful for them.
Well, there you have it. Some more positive messages from one of MCN Sports Advising's, younger players out there, and Charlie Grant. Charlie, thanks for coming on and talking about MCN Sports Advising, the time you've had with them so far, what they've been helping you out with, and the other things, as well as talking about your season so far, your experience with Okanagan Hockey Academy U15 Prep. Best of luck to you and the rest of the boys on that team in the rest of the season and the upcoming games. You take care, and thanks for coming on tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, you take care, Charlie.
You too.
Charlie Grant joining this edition of the Prospect Show on ASTV Productions. Charlie, like I said, having a pretty productive season so far. Maybe I didn't say those words exactly, but productive season. 22 points in 20 games played for OHA U15 Prep, the team out of Penticton, BC. And Charlie looking to continue to have the good impact he's been having out there on his team so far this year. And speaking of Charlie, not done talking about him. Coming up next, it's this week's edition of Player Breakdown here on the Prospect Show. I'm going to be taking a look at some clips that Charlie's dad sent me, Shane Grant, in terms of, just breaking down the type of player he is in those clips. You're watching the Prospect Show on ASTV Productions. Stick around for Player Breakdown, this week's edition of that segment, after this commercial break. Welcome back to the Prospect Show on ASTV Productions. On this week's edition of the MCN Sports Advising segment, Charlie Grant, number 13 of the Okanagan Hockey Academy Penticton U15 Prep team in the CSSHL. Forward number 13 joined the show to talk about his season. with OHA, why he chose OHA, and plenty more about Okanagan Hockey Academy talk with Charlie, as well as talking about his time with MCN Sports Advising, his experience with them so far, and what they've been able to do with him since it was the MCN Sports Advising segment for this week's edition of the show. Of course, was supposed to have another guest to start off this episode, but then Charlie was able to fill in, which was great to start off the show. Charlie would have been the second interview, but had him on first in place of Chase Wutzke, number 30 goaltender of the Saskatoon Contacts, draft pick in the 2021 WHL draft of the Red Deer Rebels. Of course, if you guys saw the intro of this episode, you'll know that Chase will be coming on next week's edition of the show. So stay tuned for that. Excited for that interview. But it's this week's edition of Player Breakdown now. And this week I'll be breaking down the game of the one and only guest on this week's episode in Charlie Grant, what makes him a good player, and some things that I feel like Charlie may need to improve on as he progresses here in his hockey development. But he's eligible for the WHL draft coming up this year in 2022 when that draft happens. I'm not going to say if I think he'll get drafted or not, or where I think he'll get drafted within what rounds, but I will say this is a good player, a player that offers some offense to his team, of course. You look at the stats this year, even last year, like looking at it in 9 games last year with OHA's U15 varsity team, Charlie put up 11 points in 9 games played in that shortened season, 7 of them being goals. This season, in 20 games played, he's over a point per game, as I've mentioned in this episode so far. He's got 12 goals, 10 assists, 22 points in 20 games played. And, just looking at Charlie, what I've noticed that I like in his game is his shot, his position out there, and he's got pretty good speed as a skater. So let's get into it on this week's edition of Player Breakdown, the 6th ever edition of the segment, featuring Charlie Grant, forward for the OHA Penticton U15 Prep team. Number 13 is the number he wears, as mentioned so many times in this interview before. But just loading up the clips of the highlights I have here for Charlie. Gonna stop and pause as always and break it down on this week's edition of Player Breakdown. So starting off with it here, you're gonna see this is just a good combination of Charlie's awareness on the ice, his ability to get to the right places to score, and his ability to shoot that puck as well. So look at here, Charlie wearing number 13, gonna end up coming in here. He's going to stay high, and he notices that all these players on the opposing team are going to go down low, leaving him wide open in the high slot here. Charlie's going to go towards the middle of the ice, get ready to one-time this puck, and he does just that, putting it top corner, top glove side. And that's the thing, Charlie, good on the one-timers, an accurate shooter as well, as you guys just saw there. Pairing that with his good positioning, gets into the right places to score, notices the weakness in the defensive coverage there for the opposing team. All those things result in good things for Charlie there, and he ends up putting a goal in for his team. Looking at this next clip here, it's going to start in the defensive zone. Charlie here is going to be the player at the top of this face-off circle. Not in the best position in here, but it's going to be okay in this play because the puck's going to go up the boards. Charlie realizes that the defenseman is going to pinch. He's going to commit. Charlie notices that there's 4 players on the other team in the offensive zone. Not much support back for that team that he's going against. He's going to make one move to chip it past this player, which he does, chips it to a teammate. Gets to a teammate and finds the open ice and waits out this goaltender here. And you'll look at it here, playing it back. And it's just Charlie being a patient shooter. Charlie recognizing that he has a bunch of open ice to go to, ends up receiving this pass here in open ice. Has a bunch of open room to burn and go in. And watch here, the goaltender at the top of his crease playing aggressive as Charlie waits him out. The goaltender backs up slightly. It's a slight, you notice it slightly, but it makes all the difference here with Charlie waiting him out. The goaltender backs up just a bit, opens up some space for Charlie to have an easier shot here in that top corner on the glove side as that side is exposed. And then he puts it top shelf for a goal for his team in that game. Nice celebration there from Charlie as well. Now you're going to look at it this play here. Charlie here gets good position on this defenseman, doesn't go to the right side, stays on the left side of Charlie's left side, doesn't go on the right side, but stays on Charlie's left side, the right side of the defenseman to receive this pass. Doesn't end up getting that in the net, but then his team recovers it, and Charlie ends up getting a step on the defenseman, ends up getting good position on him, and he puts it into the back of the net for a goal. Now, looking at this play here, it's something that, Charlie ends up getting a goal on this play, but you're going to see here, looks like the team plays a 1-2-2 on the forecheck, and Charlie acting as a high guy right here. He ends up going down low here. Something that I wish Charlie would have done better on this play is he ends up going behind the goal line, but I would have liked to see him come in for more support here to possibly create a turnover and get it into his team's possession. But Charlie doesn't do that. He stays a bit patient, stays a bit passive on the forecheck, which is something he just needs to learn with time to be able to do this right, on the forecheck, reading the plays. But Charlie is step behind this guy, the player on the other team, able to get this up the boards. It ends up getting turned over because of that good structure by that high guy that should have been acting as the high guy, and he did. I think Charlie should have acted as the forward two on that play and went in on the forecheck to better support his teammate there. But, it is what it is. Ends up getting to the point, and then Charlie does a good job going to the slot, positioning himself there, and just a great release from Charlie there, putting it off the post and in. Might have not been off the post, but putting in a nice one-timer here. And looking at it here, it's going to start in the D zone for this OHA Penticton U15 Prep team. And you're going to see Charlie is going to be the one busting out of the zone with speed. Ends up building up his speed, gets the puck, and look at Charlie go here. Not the smoothest stride in the world, but an effective fast stride. Definitely something that Charlie's going to want to work on, is smoothing out that stride as time goes along. But like you said, that's something that he's working on improving this year. Ends up burning the defenseman with good speed, and, he's got good straight line speed as a player. That's what I noticed in this clip, and ends up getting a goal for his team. And, of course, celebrating with his teammates after that goes in the back of the net. Now, looking at it on the power play here, Charlie is going to play the spot. He's going to be in the spot on this left face-off circle where he's going to end up one-time this puck later on in the play. But Charlie here ends up getting the puck, ends up noticing that there's absolutely no one high up in the zone here to cover this player that he's going to pass to. His point man passes it back, ends up, this player ends up going towards the middle of the ice, winds up for the shot. These players commit to him, opening up the space for Charlie even more to get this pass back, which he ends up getting, and just a good one-timer there from Charlie, putting it in the back of the net, and his team getting a goal. So, to break it down, once again, Charlie, the things I've liked from him, I think that he's an accurate shooter, a patient shooter, has a good one-timer, as you guys saw. His positioning gets himself into the right places to score, gets good positioning on the defenseman. He's got good straight line speed. Of course, has to, smoothen out that stride a bit, but that'll come with time. I think that he's a fast player already, so the smoother his stride gets, the better it's going to be for him, and being more effective, being more balanced out there, and being able to do so much more with his skating abilities out there as time goes along. And another thing that I feel like Charlie could improve on is just being more aggressive on the forecheck, not being as hesitant to, go in and support his teammates, instead of being in a position where he might not be as effective as you guys saw in that play where he ended up getting the goal. Just could have been more aggressive, more effective on that forecheck from the jump. But, Charlie, he's been having a productive season so far. Does he get drafted to the WHL? Well, time will tell. I think if he continues his production that he's been having this season, yeah, WHL teams could give him a shot. He's got good tools in his toolbox already to be an effective player if he continues to develop. It just might come with time for Charlie Grant, but a good player already with some good tools in his toolbox in terms of his skill set. So that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Prospect Show on ASTV Productions. I've been your host, Graeme Forsyth. Thanks to Charlie Grant for coming on this edition of the show and talking about his season with OHA, as well as, talking about his time with MCN Sports Advising. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this week's edition of Player Breakdown as well. Can't wait to do it again next week. Of course, Chase Wutzke of the Saskatoon Contacts will be joining next week's edition of the show. Rookie goaltender for that team and draft pick in the second round of the Red Deer Rebels, the 2021 WHL draft. Can't wait to interview Chase next week, as well as the other guests that I will have on the show. Of course, next week's edition of the Prospect Show goes live at 8 p.m. Central Time. Be sure to catch it on our Facebook at ASTV Productions, on our Twitter at Amateur Sports TV, as well as on our website at astvproductions.com. And if you guys want to find out who the people will be joining that show, Chase, along with the other people we'll have on next week's show, the guest list will be released as the promo goes out on our social media pages, on our Twitter, on our Facebook, and on our Instagram as well at ASTV Productions next Monday morning. But until next Monday night, folks, at 8 p.m. Central Time, I've been your host of the Prospect Show, Graeme Forsyth, signing off now. Have a wonderful rest of your Monday evening. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Have a great weekend as well. Stay safe out there. Stay warm. I heard there's supposed to be a massive snowstorm hitting the city of Winnipeg. I'm not sure if it's going to be hitting all of Manitoba, but if you are from this area, if you are on the road tonight in Manitoba and in Winnipeg, especially, be sure to stay safe, get home safe, and, stay as safe as possible. Like I said, have a great rest of your Monday night. Have a great rest of your week, a great weekend as well. Stay safe and stay warm out there. And until next Monday night, everybody, I'll see you then. Saluted now, Graeme Forsyth, signing off tonight on the Prospect Show. Peace out, everybody. Have a good one.
Welcome to Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy, your world-class academic and hockey training facility created to maximize each student's athletic and academic potential. Blackjack Stewart Arena, home of the Buffalo, is inside the 46,000 square foot complex, as well as a curling rink and other facilities. The students have a unique combination of successful, well-rounded education at Pilot Mountain Collegiate Institute and the professional hockey training in an encouraging community. The years of experience of on-ice coaching propel our students to the next level, both mentally and physically, in a professional environment.